really just wanting to know more, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like I said, I love when someone asks me a question. If I see anyone, I don't even care if I know you, so it doesn't have to be an ally. If I see that someone has posted something and my community is murmuring because they feel some kind of way or they're hurt, it's almost my responsibility to try to have that conversation with that person and to make sure, hey, you're coming from a good place, but did you mean this? Or just to mediate, because it's also our job to say, hey, community, that ally really didn't mean it this way, or girl, that ally been like that. You just not seeing it. You know what I mean? Like,
Hey guys, it's Megan with the Bridal Masterclass. Make sure we're all on here. Everything is good to go. Really excited tonight to have, hey there, Kate, to have Ellie from the Bee Collective magazine. She's going to be joining us and talking about all things weddings. She specifically has this wonderful magazine that is really meant to celebrate Black couples, Black, here we go, here, Black couples, Black love, and Black weddings. And I think that one of the things that we need right now is more perspective from people who are not Black. So I love everything that you do, Ellie. I'm so glad that you could
thank
join us.
you. Thanks
And
for
I
having
love,
me.
of course. And I love the conversation that Tarika had earlier with everyone. It was an amazing panel. You guys really just, there were so many topics, and it was like it was such a good discussion. It was like hours long.
Right,
And I mean, it clearly could have gone on for many more hours as well.
right.
But I think one of the things that's really great about what's going on right now is just the willingness for people to listen.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people that are watching that have no idea what Be Collective magazine is or does, or what your mission is. So I
Yeah.
want you to kind of first explain that, and like how you even came about, because you're a wedding planner, right?
I am a wedding
You're
planner and designer still. So I do both. So the Bee Collective was born honestly just out of need, not for the want to show pretty pictures and show the amazing events that happen, but more to showcase and highlight the vendors of color, specifically Black vendors that don't get the recognition that they deserve, that put in, already as a race, we have to work 10 times harder in everything that we do. So, they're creating trends. They're has been on a roll today. I have been on a roll. Creating trends, I remember when I just started planning and I was like known for my really, really unique floor plan designs, so we're working so hard and not being recognized. We're submitting to magazines and weren't getting featured. We were oppressed so much that we were like fighting out each other just to get that one slot for the token feature, you
right, right.
know? And I just, at some point, I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. It's, all of our events are so different. We do so many types of events. So not just wedding and events, I mean, wedding and weddings, we doing birthday parties, graduation parties, to extreme budgets. I mean, extreme. Some of our birthday party budgets are six figures plus. And there was no collective place, honestly, to see all of that. And if you wanted to find a vendor of color, you really couldn't find them. You'd have to like dig through these really long lists because they weren't highlighted. They weren't on the front pages. They're not in ads. So our clients started not being able to see themselves. So I specifically would have clients that would come to me and be like, you know what? I would love to support Black vendors and I want my entire team to be Black. Or someone would receive like the very first issue and be like, oh, I didn't know Black people could plan to this level. I don't think other races honestly see or hear what we hear on a day to day, and it's crazy because it's 2020, right? So
Right.
it's like for all of that to keep happening in that conversation, and we're still so far behind and still trying to prove ourselves, and that's why the magazine was born, and it really is. It's a 10 by 12 glossy 400 page
It's gorgeous.
collection. Thank
It's
you. And
so
we call it a collection for a reason. We no longer call it issues because what happens is if a new client or a new vendor sees the magazine, they're like, oh my God, I just found out on issue four. Let me go back and buy all the other ones.
right.
So it just doesn't die per season.
I love it. I love it. And I think it's so great because it really is. it's one of those things. I mean, and this is why representation is so important, you know, and you can't like, it still like blows my mind when like I hear things, either they're said in front of me or
Yeah,
they're said, you know, like I hear about it that's said, you know, through the grapevine. And I'm like, what? Like, what are
yeah,
you talking about? Who
right,
says? And then I'm like, you know what? Like, it's on one hand, it's so ridiculous. And on the other
right,
hand, it's like, you know, like, yeah, I
yeah,
heard that before. Like
right,
it's sad. And it's sad
yeah,
to, like, live with that
hmm,
and have to accept that that's just the way things are. So I
right,
love, you know, that all the things that you're doing to showcase, you know, Black professionals and have a place for them to really
yeah,
shine and not have to worry about either just being the token
right,
or, you know, or to have to fight everyone else, because that just creates more division,
absolutely.
you know.
And that's what's going on. And that's why I'm excited that all these conversations are happening, because I don't ever, never in our community have I ever heard us say like, well, we don't want to be associated with white people, or we don't want to be associated with this race.
Right,
It's more crying of why don't they accept us? Why
right,
aren't we good enough? Why won't they give us a seat at the table? Why won't they take my work? So it's definitely, from my perspective, and then you can even see it in my bio, it's about diversifying, highlighting and diversifying. But we love fusion weddings. We want to do all types of weddings. We're just not afforded the same opportunities sometimes.
right. No, absolutely. And so what do you see as kind of, I mean, I know that you talked about this a little bit before in the last webinar, but you know, what are some of the ways that, I mean, everyone's like, oh, I'm posting the black box and, you know, Black Lives Matter and
Right.
Black Ops Tuesday. But, you know, beyond that, it kills me when it's like I go on Instagram today and I see them start to post their own crap back again.
Right.
Oh, that was yesterday, you know,
Yeah.
like
Now we've
it's
moved
like
on. Yeah.
here out and then
Right.
like forget who he was. Like it's not, you know, it kills me. So like what are some ways that specifically that white wedding professionals, because that is the majority of wedding
Right.
professionals that are being highlighted, how can they support Black owned businesses in the wedding industry?
It's so easy. And I don't even think it's a color thing. It's what we would want as a entrepreneur in general. Following our work, liking our work, commenting, sharing, tagging others. And honestly, I've seen that so far after the webinar. I've seen people, the following has gone up. People are commenting, understanding that beauty's beauty, whether it's a black figure that you're looking at, or a event that took place with someone else. If it's art and it's amazing, showcase it. I've seen a lot of white women specifically. They will tag their industry peers that they're like, hey, here are my 5 black friends in Alabama that's killing it. To just, one, that shows where their stance is to their peers, and two, they're highlighting another business that someone may not have known about. So, as I was saying on the webinar, it's not that we're literally asking like, hey, go ahead and post our stuff. I mean, like, post black people and show. That's just, it's not possible for everyone, right? And don't create this false content just to show that you're in alliance. Be natural about it. Like I said, like the photos, share the content, follow the people, say, hey, great job.
Right,
Sometimes you don't know how much, that no matter who the person is, there's a day you can wake up and you want to give up, and you get that great job and you're like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. So just even those words of encouragement, opportunities, if you are on, we said this before on a panel, if you're on a panel and it's a majority of white people, step up as the expert that you're being called, and say, hey, organizer, you may not be doing this the right way. I know this person because you've taken the work and done, and you know who's doing a great job. So there's so many ways that you can support. And I can't stress this enough. What I don't want to come out of a situation is that support does not mean dollars. No one's looking for the handout because we've done the work times 10. We just want to say, hey, you are our peers, you're our equals, and just looking for the equality of it.
and I think that's so important. It's not a matter of like, oh, you know, maybe they don't do good work, or but
Yeah,
you know, but just go like pity party, support that. Like that's not what this is. This is like
right.
it really is about just the opportunity to actually be seen, and whether it's an algorithm or it's just who you happen to be in your circle. I mean, it's really about, you know, breaking out of that echo chamber and being like, hey, I'm liking these things, I'm commenting, I'm following these other people. Your feed is going to change, and people don't even realize how much that changes your perspective just as a human being, because it's
Right,
what you see. I mean, if
right,
you're seeing it represented, you don't know. But if
right.
you're not doing the work, you're not going to know.
Exactly. And as a creative, because we are talking to the creative market, if you don't know all different, it's like not knowing the 1920s era versus the 2000s, right? So like if you don't know what the trends are or the colors or the expectations are, so say you service mostly white clients and then Beyonce wants to do a vow renewal, she calls you, you can't do exactly what you've done in your white market. You have to have some idea of what's happening. So it's only behooving to yourself to elevate your knowledge, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of people will get it. Will everyone get it? Absolutely not. This is the real world, right? But I think just the conversations will change internally. I think people will have conversations and think about webinars that they've probably been on, or just say, hey, wait, stop the conversation. It's one note, it's one voice. Let's go ahead and bring another professional, get their perspective. I'm praying that that's what happens next.
Right. Well, and I loved what you said on the earlier panel when you were talking about how, if you want more, Black clients, couples, you want to do more African American weddings, then you need to know what that looks like. You can't just be like, and I mean, the example of doing the styled shoot, and I think that's great because you do need representation to show that is, like people need to see, your couples need to see them before they're actually going to contact you in the first
Right.
place. But if you don't know what to do once you get them, that's not good. That's not good for
No.
this. It's not good for you. It's not good for them.
Right.
Like nobody's
Right.
good. So
Right.
you said before, and I don't know if you want to kind of talk about again how, finding people and being the second shooter if you're a photographer, or being like an assistant as a planner.
Yeah. And that goes for everyone, right? So, Indian weddings are no joke. I've done them, don't really care to do them because they're a whole different beast.
Yeah.
But you have to actually be in that room and understand the different, not only is an Indian wedding, there's different cultures and there's different tribes when you're doing Nigerian weddings. Understanding like what those differences are, the offerings, you can't figure that out in a styled shoot.
Right.
You can't figure it out by following someone's page that predominantly does Nigerian weddings. You have to be in that room. So sometimes, like I said, either you're second shooting for someone, you're linking up with a planner. I don't know what happened to coffee dates. Like I said, everyone's kind of hiding behind social media. So where are the coffee dates? Where are hey, I want to get to know you and your brand, not what can you do for me, So I
Right.
think just approaching it that way, to say, hey, I don't have any idea what it means to do a Nigerian wedding. Can you give me any kind of insight? Just having those honest conversations and being transparent. And then once you get that information, sharing some of it, so if you've never shot a Nigerian wedding and you see a, a ceremony like we call white weddings and American weddings, but you see a portion that you're like, oh, I relate, I seen that, then you share it on your story and you talk a little bit about that experience so that people still start to get to know that you're doing the homework.
Right. And I think that's so important because it's just like anything else. You need to do the home. I mean, for whatever, aspect of the industry that you're in, if you're a photographer, you can't just like, oh, I have a camera, I don't know how to use it. Like
Right,
you need to know about what you're doing,
right.
and, understanding who it is that you're shooting. Like that's
Yeah,
really important because you can't shoot them well. Like you can't do your job well if you don't know them. Like if you're
exactly.
or if your design, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
So I think that's really important. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, I'm just colorblind. Like I don't see color, or everyone's the same. So it's just the same. Everything's the
yeah.
same. It's like, no, like you can't just, we're not the same.
Right. And it's okay, like I was just thinking when you're talking, I was like, for example, at a white wedding, Shout comes on as a photographer or videographer. You know what's gonna happen once that song, The Shout, comes on,
Right.
right? You know exactly where you need to be because everyone's gonna be on the dance floor and when they're gonna drop it down low,
Yeah.
right? So there's certain songs in the Black community that if you don't know that and you're just like, oh, it's just a regular song, you're probably at the bar not realizing it's the most important song of the night. So it's so much to do, so much work to be done. And I'm being positive. I feel like we're gonna get it'll take. I always say what I'm doing right now is not stuff that I will be able to enjoy. It's stuff and my son probably won't be able to enjoy. It's for our grandkids. It's for our legacies. And I think we're finally making that right step and just having these honest, open conversation and not feeling to mince words. To say, look,
Yep.
this is how I feel. It hurts me when you've done this. Can we talk about it?
Right. Right. And I think that the ability to have those conversations, the real conversations, that's what really like it brings meaningful change
Hmm.
because you otherwise it's just kind of like a nice band-aid and like let's move on and kind of like I'm just gonna go over here and you're gonna go over there and
Right.
you know, so I appreciate that. I love that. In terms of like resources and things, I mean, one of the things like obviously so your Be Collective magazine, is it mainly kind of in Atlanta or is it
Great question. It's
regional
national.
or is it
Yeah, it's national slash
okay.
international. Yeah. So it's, it comes out every year. Typically at the beginning of the year, like I said, it's so substantial you can't get through it in one sitting, and that's intentional. And we cover tons of topics, so it's more than just a pretty magazine. It's a lot of tips, and we have our industry experts stepping up to the plate and giving real life example for our celebrants. I don't just call them um, couples, because we have people planning all different type of events, which is important because I think that's another thing. As the wedding industry, we're not very versed on doing all types of events. We have that listing on our service page, but how many people are really doing it? So we have that. At the beginning of the year, we also had the Be Collective Awards, which was born again out of the need of showcasing and giving someone to look forward to, of, having, and it really celebrates the person that had the best year prior, not the best in the industry, but just you had a rockin' 2019, and then you're celebrated. And then there's tons of education stuff that we've equipped with that. As you saw, Jamie said, our very first one was Be Elevated. We had that last year, where it's just kind of all different types of education, not just for wedding planners and designers, just kind of that mid level. It's not necessarily entry level, that mid level. Like, I want to take my business to the next level. I want to have multiple streams. I want to do a bunch of different things. That's kind of who we're targeting. And we have so much planned. I mean, we have the podcast that just launched that talks a lot about business, and then is not necessarily race focused. It's, something that anyone could apply. So we're an evolving brand, just overall becoming a multifaceted media group.
I love it. I love it. And I think it's so important because there's obviously the aspect of if you know, there are individuals who are like, I'm listening, black is, I'm listening, but they don't have any black friends. So I don't know who they're listening to,
Right.
which is part of the problem.
Right.
So, that's one thing, but it's like understanding that it's not just about the tokenism of like, oh, I have my black friend now. So
Right.
that, just because they're black doesn't mean that all black people think the same, do the same, have the same weddings. It's not just one category. And
Right.
so what I love is that it really your magazine and like your entire media, it's just everything. Um,
Leah's so funny.
you're creating an empire. You
I'm
are.
I'm so proud. I had to stop for a second. I'm so proud of Leah, because I did Leah's wedding. I don't even know how long ago it was. So like now, like we're in the same space. Every time I see her name, I'm like, Leah. So
Yes. No, I love and Leah is such a champion as well. Like she was, she's posting all about, everything that people can do. And I think it's important because there's a lot of things that, you can sit and kind of wring your hands or she says 2012. Um,
yeah. But
so
that's
it's
a perfect example. Leah's a perfect example. Like right now, 100% of my clients are African American. During the time around 2012, it was definitely a great mix. And I'll be honest, every time then and even now, if a white person approaches you to do your wedding, you're like, you know, before you're like, am I worthy? Am I gonna get it? Do I have to tone down my blackness in order to appeal?
like,
But Leah's a perfect example, who, as a wedding planner, she's like, listen, you are good at, and she had a very diverse vendor team, very diverse, now that I think about it, Leah, but to have a black woman at the helm of her wedding, because at the end of the day, I'm not only responsible for her vendors, I'm responsible for her guests. And those are little things that wedding vendors can do, of putting us into positions, and not just behind the scenes, behind the kitchen positions. So,
right, right. And I love that because it is, and being able to have, I mean, that's what it means to be an ally,
yeah.
really. Like it just means to be a good friend. And
Right.
it shouldn't be that hard to explain that,
Right.
being an ally is just being a good friend. The same way you'd be a good friend to anyone else, regardless of what they look like or who they love. It's like when you're a good ally, you're a good friend. And so it's
Yeah.
like if they're doing a bang up job, you're gonna promote them. You're gonna say, hey, and you're gonna like show everyone else what they're doing, which is, I think, part of what's important is if you don't have enough friends that are diverse, you're only promoting things that are just like you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So your podcast, how many, so is it just newly started? Is it?
It's newly started. I just launched on my birthday, which was probably about 2 weeks ago. So it's really exciting. Yeah, it's 2 weeks old, but it's doing amazing in numbers. I do tour twice a week. So I do a solo, and then I also do interviews with any and anybody, just like whatever the hot topics are. So my last one that just came out yesterday was like the top three things that we can do. And when I say we, I mean both communities,
Right.
in order to go ahead and progress forward. So just really quick hot topics, just kind of keeping it's to me it's the news of the day as well, so I have my master's in business, so I'm not just I've done a couple of things, I've ran several businesses, and I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy this community, and I know there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm excited about all the bridging of the gaps in the conversation. So I want to be able to be seen and have our community seen on all different platforms. So I remember when I dropped the podcast, quite a few people say, "Hey, I've been waiting for a Black woman to do it," and I think we've done it. Maybe I'm not too sure, but I don't maybe not such an influencer has done it yet, but I want to pave the way so that when more people of color want to go ahead and do it, they already have a resource. I've told everyone, I published a coffee table book before I did a magazine. So it's like, okay, you want to do, I've done the homework. Here it is, sis, and no matter who it is. Same thing with the magazine. We have so many people. I know Nadia's here. I don't know if she's still here. She's a florist out of Houston, and she's like, "Hey, I'm planning on doing a magazine." I said, "Hey, why not do it under the umbrella?" So because I've done the work, why have to figure out paper and printers and what's the next step? Worry about the content, worry about making it great, and I'll be your ally in that sense of doing things. But we can only grow as a community together if we all come together and pool our resources together. Because of course, there's opportunities, as we talked about on the webinar. I don't get sponsors. I don't get Zola or Out Perfect. They don't reach out. And not to say that I've gone above and beyond to reach out to them. Absolutely not, because I don't take rejection well. So I rather just figure it out on my own, figure it out by myself before the hate brews into me, because I feel like I'm not afforded the same opportunities, even though I've worked 10 times harder to
Right.
deserve those opportunities.
Right. And I love that because I think it's really important to note that it's not just like, oh, like again, like it's not a pity party. It's not
Yeah.
like sitting there and like, oh, nobody's noticing me. It's like, you've worked 20 times harder and you've done it for longer and you've done it a million times better. And still it's like, no, thanks. Or like once you hear that over and over again, it's like, why would you keep trying?
Exactly.
Why? That's just
Right.
stupid. And then it's like, that's only damaging your self-esteem, your self-worth. Like, why would you do that? Why would you put yourself through
Right.
it? So
Exactly.
I love that. I love that, and that's again what it means to be a good friend. Like if you're a good friend, you're a good ally. And it's not just like to diversify, your network, but also like being a mentor to other people. So maybe it's, you see someone that's just starting out and like helping them out because it's like they might not have the resources you had to grow to be what you are or opportunities that you've had. So why would you not want to be a good friend and mentor them? And so I love what you're doing with like the podcast and like sharing your knowledge because I think that's so important. So you have the podcast, you have a coffee table book, and you have the magazine.
Yes, and the Facebook group. Before the end of the year, I'm pretty sure there'll be an award show, and I'm sure there'll be a YouTube channel. We had tons of shows that was slated for 2020 that won't happen, obviously, because of COVID. We're just literally coming from every direction. More from I have a marketing background, so again, just elevating, bridging that gap, showing that Black excellence that's been there, always been there. You can go all the way back to B. Smith of what she's done. And probably didn't. She was the first Martha Stewart, but didn't get the credit for it. So just making sure that those days no longer exist. But I think what makes me so excited and keeps right phone keeps ringing. What makes me keep going in this day and age and even more excited is that I know that sorry, we could be I can't even like talk because my focus. We could be elevated even at an even faster rate because of what's happening, you know. So that just makes me get up every day and not be exhausted from the next day because I'm like these conversations have to happen. I believe in everything that I've done. It has not been for monetary gain at all. So anyone that knows that does this self-publishing, I've risked it all for my community,
Yeah.
and never thought that I would be in this position. It's not something that as a child, I've thought an activist, but it really is genuine and authentic from my heart. So anything that I can do to help my allies, help my industry. And that's why I can, if I had to do 5 lives a day, I would. Just kind of giving my perspective and things that I've experienced and cries that I've heard others cry that again may be too silent or too scared to speak up because they don't want to be ostracized or they don't know how it's going to be taken or they feel like they're too new. And I'm like, I don't care if you have 500 followers, like those people, they need to be recognized. They have to start somewhere. We all started somewhere, you know? So
Right.
that's another thing I probably didn't mention on the webinar. Don't just go after the people that have names. And we kind of talked about that. Like, don't keep just going after the token people. Pick people, help elevate them, or they could be dope from the start. You know, they come from different industries, already know their stuff. They're just newer in this aspect. So just help lifting them up as well.
Yeah, no, and I think that's important because it's like if you're doing it because your heart's in the right place,
Yeah.
you're gonna do the right thing. And I think that's something else. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm scared I'm gonna say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, or maybe people are gonna see it the wrong way. But it's like if you're really doing it from the right place, people will see that you're doing it from the right and you keep
Absolutely.
doing it because it's not a one-time thing. It's not just a and DC Wedding Week said there are so many talented people out there. There
Yeah.
are. It's like there's like seriously, you all you have to do is just look for them, and it takes 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or
those-
give the credit because that's another thing that I've noticed. Me personally, I've gone through, you know, I've been at conferences and someone will say, hey, you know, do you know Ileana LEB? And they're like, oh no, I don't know. And then they're like, oh, you never saw that X table design? Oh my God, I know the X table design. So you know who I am.
yeah,
You know my work, but you don't want
yeah,
to give me credit for it. You know what I'm saying? So like, let's start there. You know what I mean? Like give, like I was saying, like comment, credit, like, oh my God, this person's dope. You know, I remember one time someone did copy, who was an ally at the time, copied the floor plan and made sure when she posted it, I was inspired by LEB and here's my version of it. Like there's nothing wrong with that because that inspiration has to be well-rounded. And if you are in this industry and your work is not well-rounded, then then what are you really servicing your clients or the industry at all, you know?
right, right. I love that, and I honestly like I think that's so. I love how you really like you really want to give back and help the
Yeah.
community as a whole because I mean that's what I'm all about too. I think it's
Yeah.
important to make sure that we're not so focused on like on ourselves or on our own
Yeah.
business. And I mean, it's like how you can't build your network, you can't
Yeah.
meet new people and actually grow as an artist. Whatever you're doing in the industry to really get to that next level.
Hmm.
DC Wedding Week's like give credit where credit is due. A simple
Yeah,
tag reminder.
exactly.
It's so important.
Yeah.
And I think it's
Yeah.
it's one of those things like tagging is it's I feel like I get it. People are busy and you're just reposting stuff, but try to take the time and really tag everyone. Like give people credit because
Yeah.
again, it's great to get information out there or pictures or like whatever it is. But
We need a whole industry standard on that. That's like that's a whole industry standard, a guidebook, something that when you're new, you have a reference point. Because there's some crazy stuff that happens on social media. So that's that's a whole that's a whole another thing we
I
gotta
love
get
it.
over.
Yeah, Sarah,
Yeah.
Sarah, is it Sarah Khan events? She says it should be mandatory.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I get
I totally agree. Yeah.
it.
So I love it. Well, what are some things that, kind of going forward that you think professionals should be doing, or how can they support their Black friends or kind of get involved in what's going on?
Yeah, showing up to these webinars and these lives are so important because I see you. You know, I see the names. You doing that shows that you want to be here. You know, no one's forced you. You didn't click on it by accident because if you did, it would be gone by now. You know, so that's important. If you see someone on the live that had a really good comment or somebody that you just want to know more about, reach out. You know, I think right now everyone's door is open, everyone's heart is open. Although we're healing, our hearts are open and we want to be comforted. You know, we want to be comforted. I've had so many of my colleagues that say, hey, I'm checking on you, are you good? you know, even if I can't respond back at the time, I definitely respond back and said, you know, thanks so much, I'm good. That way they can move on and check on someone else, you know. So just don't do one token check-in either. You know what I mean? Like do like check in as many as much as because you know they're probably like, I checked on my one black friend, I'm good. No, check on a couple of us. You know what I'm saying? Because some of us
Yes.
is better than others. You know, like I
Right.
have friends that like they cry every night. I'm like, oh, I'm not crying every night, you know, but someone else might be, and they might need you a little bit more than I do. So again, just really having that genuine approach and really just wanting to know more. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Like I said, I love when someone asks me a question. If I see anyone, I don't even care if I know you, so it doesn't have to be an ally. If I see that someone has posted something and my community is murmuring because they feel some kind of way or they're hurt, it's almost my responsibility to try to have that conversation with that person and to make sure, hey, you're coming from a good place, but did you mean this? Or just to mediate, you know, because it's also our job to say, hey, community, that ally really didn't mean it this way, or girl, that ally been like that, you just not seeing it. You know what I mean? Like we got to keep it real, you know. And I think the more we're keeping it real, and I think people are vocal, as you saw in the webinar, calling names out, but also giving grace, right?
Yeah.
So we're not here to do an online protest, right? Like we're
Right.
not here to like go break windows online, but we're literally saying, okay, I brought it to your attention. Are you willing to do anything about it? Again, if you don't want to do anything about it, everyone needs to step away and leave that person alone. But if you claim that you're going to be a change, we're going to hold you accountable. We're going to hold your feet to the fire.
And I think that's really important because it's like, again, you can't just say like, whatever the cause is, it doesn't matter. You can't just say like, yeah, I care, and then your life, your actions, your business, nothing backs that up. Like that's just crap. Like that's crap.
Right.
People are saying,
That's what I'm saying. That my friend giving
right?
grace. Yeah, grace is so important, and that's bigger than just race. That's a whole thing we all need to learn. You know, businesses, entrepreneurs, we mess up, we don't know.
Yeah,
So that grace part is such a big deal.
yeah. And I mean, I think that's that, but that's the thing is like,
Yeah.
it's the response from the being called out
Yeah.
that, you know what, it's like, if you're willing to give someone grace, it's like how you're calling them out is also going to be different than if you're calling them out just because you want to beat them up.
Right,
You know?
right, right. And there's a lot of that happening because I think we're institutionally so hurt for so long.
Yeah.
So
No.
there are going to be a lot of black people that literally want to attack you,
And
you
yeah,
know, because they're like, finally, you know, like they finally
yeah,
feel like, hey, we have people that have our back, so we're going to say and do what we got to
yeah,
do. And they have a right to be hurt and feel the way
yeah,
that they do, you know, whether we agree with their approach or not, you know. Again, everyone is going to have something to say no matter the race. I mean, I've had friends on Facebook just today where, you know, they're in the industry, there's a whole racial discussion going on, and friends probably that's responding that's not necessarily in the industry is just filled with racist comments. And I'm watching that poster and I'm like, so you're not going to check your friends? Like, you're not going to stop them from the racism because now you just have an open debate and I'm judging you because you started this and you're not correcting them or you're not deleting it. Even if you don't want to get into it with your friend, delete it, remove it. You know, don't have us out here. And it was so crazy because this one vendor, which was a white vendor, was friends with myself and a client. And my client that used him for her wedding many years ago said, I cannot believe this is the way that you feel. I now see it. You've put your foot in your mouth. And
right,
not only have I used you for my wedding, but I've referred you to several weddings and now you will never get a referral from me again.
right,
So you have to be comfortable that when you're speaking out or you don't know any better in the terms that you're speaking out, that you will be called out and you are going to lose potential business and you better be okay with it.
right. And I think that's what's key is, no one's saying that, anyone's going to be perfect.
Right.
It's a matter of, what, if you're not taking responsibility for what you're posting, and it's, I mean, it even goes back to like, you can't just be like, oh, it's just that's my personal, account, so it doesn't count. No,
Right.
it does, because you're a human being, and I'm actually, it's like, I care about the humans that are behind the
I want to
business.
know your personal view and your business view.
Yeah,
Your personal view means way more than you getting my dollar view, right? Because if that's what your heart is, your heart don't deserve my dollars. You know what I mean? So please give me all the personal feedback. Give it to me all, you know? So.
I love it. I love it. I'm sorry. I had meant to say, so events by Yosira or Yosira? Syra. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I love your advice and not just reaching out to the token. There are so many contributing to the industry. SG3 events. And Ileana, I love what you said earlier about another call being genuine. Authenticity is key. Kate says, thank you. And Enchantment Events. Ellie has become one of my friends through her publications. She's so genuine. Dare to Dream says, giving grace. We got lots of hellos there.
Hello.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I try, I do my best to reach out, and lately it's been a little bit crazy, so I have to apologize. I try to reach out to everyone who follows us because I think it's important to really make sure that people know, like, they're seen, and I mean, it doesn't matter, like, you're seen in the industry and we care about you. It's not just like, I don't know. That's
Well,
just
I have to ask you, tell my followers a little bit more about the Bridal Masterclass.
So the Bridal Masterclass, you know, essentially started, I've done education for the last 20 years in the industry, and I do a lot of work with the knot. But over the last couple of years, there were a lot of opportunities for me to do more education. So I took that, and that was great. But I saw a disconnect between the opportunities that people had for learning and what people could do for doing, like the actual act of learning, doing. And so that's why we put together the Bridal Masterclass experience, which obviously we can't do right now because of live events. But we did, I think we did 7 total, from 19 to 20. And essentially it's a 2-day event. Day 1 is speakers, really great speakers. And then there's a stylized lunch, lots of really great kind of information that people can learn from, do action items. And then the next day, it's a hands-on styled shoot that you're a part of, and really learning kind of the ins and outs. If you've never done a styled shoot before, if you want new inspiration, learning from different local industry professionals, so that you can not only learn kind of how they do their approach, like their approach to styled shoots, but also network and work with other vendors and work with them, because I think that's the best way to be able to really broaden your network in terms of, you know, like, they've seen you work, so they know, like, yeah, they're really, they work hard, their work ethics there, or they care about the details, or, oh, thanks, Kirsten. Kirsten speaks at a lot of our events. So, but I mean, those are things that, and then in the evening, we have couples come through, and then they're able to kind of see all that inspiration in person. It always kills me that, like, we create these beautiful styled shoots, and the people who really want to see it don't ever get to see it in person. And we just,
they get to experience it, right?
They get to experience it. And then the pros get to actually have conversations and try to, you know, implement things that they learned from day 1 about new ways of speaking with clients or connecting with them. And, you know, it's really meant to just be a fun time, that learning can be fun and not just like so confined to a notebook. So unfortunately that will have to wait for a while. So, but we're still doing, you know, things that we can, and again, just kind of bringing resources to people. So having conversations and, you know, trying to put things out there for people so that they understand, like, all of these things are here. I've had so many conversations with pros who are like, I don't even know where to start, or they feel like certain kind of groups in their area are cliquey, and they're like I can fit in there, or, you know. So it's like, those are the things that we want to do and shine lights. Like, these are groups that you can join, that are welcoming, that love like they want to see you grow. They want you to do better. And so that's why I think it's so important, you know, because wherever you are, knowing who your tribe is, that's an important thing. And if you feel like you don't belong, the chances of you staying are going to be slim.
Right. I agree. That's awesome. I'm excited for you when we get back to work.
I know, right? Oh my goodness. So what are some local resources that you usually like to refer people to, in terms of, like, whether it's local resources? Because are you in Atlanta, or are you?
I am in Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay. So when we were in Atlanta, I think we had Brittany from
from Sharp Soirees. I remember.
Fantastic.
She killed that table with the pink chairs. I remember.
Yes. So she did a great job. But so are there certain kind of local, I don't say local chapters, but local kind of groups that really help support Black wedding professionals that you know of?
Great question. I don't know of any. I've seen more of everyone just kind of moving towards the whole Facebook type of deal. So there's probably a couple of Facebook groups. And I think hopefully after COVID that'll change. Because I remember that's how the start of my career was, is tons of networking group. I mean, we went to networking events every single night, but it literally got you, we're able to know venues and vendors, and I think that aspect of that in person is missing somewhat. So we'll see. We'll see. Now you're giving me a whole nother business thing to change. So we'll see.
Well, thank you so much for being a part and like
Welcome.
sharing everything that you're doing. And everyone, be sure if you haven't already, no pun intended, be sure to subscribe to, is it, so it's, your podcast is called
Oh
Be
God, bespoke. Everything has a B in
Bespoke.
it somewhere.
Oh,
So it's bespoke. Yes. Link in the bio. Link in the bio.
okay. So link in her bio to Bespoke. And then obviously your collection
Yes.
magazine. And what else am I missing? Your coffee table book.
The coffee tables be inspired, all on they're all on the becollective.co website.
Okay.
We do have the awards that's always slated for around MLK weekend here in Atlanta. Right now we're moving forward despite of what's happening with COVID. So we encourage everyone. I will tell you, when our allies come, they have the best time ever. I know it's a little intimidating, no different on our end when we're going to all white event and we're like, we don't know, but it's such a family atmosphere and such, it's literally, I always joke, it's the BT meets the Oscars. So it's just an amazing red carpet, like it's just an amazing time. Yeah, but those are the major things that we're working on, and every day you'll see me drop a B something, but it always makes sense. I don't drop anything until I've mastered something. Of course, we have the vendor platform, so we do have, where you're able to go on and find vendors in your area, and they are our platform is like no other. What we're building is more of a business hub. So on the back end, you're able to launch tools such as Zoom and a whole bunch of collaborations that we're working on after the last 2 days. But it literally is to elevate the look of our industry, and so that when anyone goes on, we're kind of all on the same level playing field. And that's important no matter how many years you've been in business. If you're here to do the work and you're serious about your business, then being an affiliate is important.
Awesome. That's so awesome.
Thank
Thank
you, Nadia. Nadia dropped all
you.
my
Now you
stuff. Thank you.
put it there. Awesome.
Thank
And the
you.
Bee
Thank you.
Academy Facebook group.
Yes, we have so much fun in there because I just don't expect me to look like this in the group. But if you want me to drop on and I'm live and it is what it is and open communication, we have a good time. We don't chat a lot because I don't deal with the fluff, but we're like, if there is something that's brewing that's happening business wise, that's where you kind of want to be.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for everything that you
Thank
do.
you for having me. I appreciate you. I know we were supposed to do this yesterday, but we were
No worries.
respectful. We were
No.
like was
Yeah.
Blackout Tuesday. We couldn't do it, so here
No.
we are.
And I appreciate it. I know your day was full. So I hope you can rest, get a
Yeah.
little relaxation.
This
And
makeup's coming off. You see how greasy I am? This makeup's coming off. It's time for a nap.
all
Thank you
right.
so much for having me. Thank you, guys.
And thanks for joining.